Mr. Rogers. How you doing today?
What's going on? I'm doing good, man. Man, you had got me excited, man. Anytime you say you had something on your mind and what you think, I was like, man.
Well, this is something that I learned about, and tell me what you think about this. Now, we talked about Spence getting offered some alternative fights, like, for example, fighting Thurman, and also the possibility maybe of fighting Boots. Right. Okay? Now, Stanionis came out and made the comment, I don't know if you heard this, is that he was the number one contender to fight Spence. Okay?
Yep.
And what he did, he put aside that because he didn't want to get in the way of the Spence Crawford fight.
Right.
And now, since that fight fell through, he is saying that his mandatory should be honored because he only backed off of it to let them fight, and that fight is not going to happen. So basically what he's saying is fights with Thurman and fights with Boots should temporarily be off the table until his mandatory is fulfilled, if Spence fights again at the welterweight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are all over it, sir. You listen. Stanionis has every right. He has every right. I did a video about Stanionis back around when I was looking at him and I was looking at Virgil at the same time. And it is correct. He did do this. He took the step aside, And as far as him doing that, because that means he was next in line. Keith Thurman, he pretty much had to go to the back of the line.
Correct.
I mean, he had to go to the back of the line, and let's be real. Manny he started getting to Manny Pacquiao, but he didn't beat Manny Pacquiao up. He lost to Manny Pacquiao, and then Ugas beat him up. So, and Ugas just got out the way. Boots, I think he's next. I think he's next in line, but it depends on which belt you go by.
Exactly, and see, that's what I had made a reference, that when you own more than one belt, each sanctioning body can have a different number one contender for the belt, But Stanionis is saying before anybody else has been moved into that position, he was there first.
Yeah.
And his contention, he feels, should be honored over anybody else. Now, as a fighter, I think he has a legitimate argument, but the only problem is that how many fights do you think Spence will remain at welterweight, if any? Okay? Now, if Spence is going to make a decision, well, I'm going to fight one more time at welterweight, and I'm going to move up. It doesn't make a difference who he fight. He could fight whoever he think is more marketable in terms of a purse, because once he fight and he moves up, then he's giving up the other belts anyway, so any other mandatory would actually be irrelevant.
Look, I think I would be happy if he took Stanionis. I would be happy, and I'm gonna tell you why. I mean, for one, Errol got the right to fight whoever he want right now because of that, that other guy and his behavior, But I like Stanionis. I was calling him Baby Earl. They have very similar styles. They love to go to the body. This dude got a chin, and this dude ain't nothing. This dude is cerebral, and he's brutal. And that would be a good fight. If Errol go in there and stop this dude or break something on this dude, man, Like, cause this dude ain't nothing. Like, people be saying, because they gonna play this game, like, who is this? And they gonna start making all fun of all his names and all. You can call him whatever you want. We gonna call him Step Aside Stanionis. He stepped aside, and now he's speaking up. Everybody else being quiet. Everybody else kind of being quiet except for Boots. Boots won it. He won it. But as far as being next in line, he was there. Now
he was there before Boots moved up.
He got the right. In my book, he got the right. And anybody just crying about that is just, you know, you looking at it either from a casual perspective or you got ulterior motives. With Bud doing what he doing, Spence got it right. And if Stanionis is speaking up, hey, according to boxing principles, that fight should go down, and it's gonna be a very good fight. That dude is not no walkover. That dude, man, I would love to see Bud fight him. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see Ugas fight him. I would love to see Boots fight this guy. You know, cause I'm telling you, the dude, he's a rugged. He's like a baby Errol Spence. He's like the baby. I say the baby because, you know, the style and how, you know, he might have took some influence or whatever. But he moved over here. I think he living out there in Cali or one of them. He moved over here. He's like over here. He speaks great English. Like, he's actually got a sense of humor. You know, this dude ain't like one of them guys that's across the pond and just been over there and just frequenting. He's been living here, training here. Like, the dude is nice. So I would appreciate that fight. If ain't nobody else like it, I want it. You know, I agree.
And guess what? Nobody can say anything about Earl fighting him and that he's taking an easy fight, because the man is a mandatory. And if you don't fight your mandatories within a certain amount of time, you can be stripped your title.
Yep.
So it would not be a bad move for him to fight him, because in all actuality, this man is deserving. He waited patiently. He wanted to see what was going to happen with Spence and Crawford, because he realizes that this is a bigger fight. So therefore, he had to step aside for the right cause of boxing. And he did that. Yep. So now he's saying, wait a minute.
Yep.
If that fight didn't come through, yep, I'm deserving, because I'm the #1 contender, and I was the #1 before any sanctioning body placed somebody else as a #1 contender.
Yeah.
So I'm deserving of my opportunity, and you know what? I have to agree with him.
I do. I think Errol fighting Stanionis is good for boxing. You know why? Because it's not going to be one of them, oh, he ducked his mandatory. Nope, I'm getting my mandatory, which is nothing to shake a stick at. And if he is going to spin the block, like he said he was, and fight Bud after, you know, he fight Polynesian Sauce, then he going to do his thing with Stanionis. Hopefully Bud do his thing with Polynesian Sauce. And then boom, that's the next fight. Because after that, if there's any hesitation after this and that drag out, man, Earl just need to go ahead and move up. But I agree with this. This would be boxing kind of like, you know, stand on par for, you know, the disappointment of not getting the fight. But this would be like for boxing, for the rankings, and to justify mandatories and to honor the guy who the blue collar guy who done worked his way up. You know what I'm saying? Who was courteous and stepping aside, because he could have said, nah, you know what I'm saying? You can't pay me. Because I thought, at the time, I was saying, man, he could have bucked the system. I said, but that's the gentleman thing to do, to let the big dogs, you know, sort it out. But if that can't happen, yeah, go ahead, let's get it. You know, and I like that behavior, because who else is talking like that? We see people moving up and you know, moving out and making all these excuses, you know. This dude is actually saying, hey, don't forget about me. Come holler at me. I like it.
Yeah. And you know what? After hearing, you know, his side of the story, I have to agree with him. He's got to say something now. If Earl chooses not to fight him, then what I'm believing going to happen is Earl will take one more fight at welterweight and then vacate that division, because by not fighting him, and he's a mandatory, he could lose that belt by fighting somebody else.
But who else now? Let's play this. Let's move forward now. Cause let's just say it's not him. I mean, who else is it?
Well, listen, it really doesn't make a difference, because what happens is, and see, this is why it's so difficult for these guys to be unanimous champion and it stay, because each sanctioning body has the right to determine who their number one is. And what happens is, if you don't fight that number one within that particular sanctioning body, they have the right to strip you of that particular title. And that's how come these titles always get broken up once somebody ascertain them, because it's difficult to fight the mandatory for each belt, because you're talking about 4 fights that you have to have within a certain period.
Yeah.
If not, you can actually be stripped from any particular sanctioning body. And see, that's what makes it difficult to be the unified champion. And so, let's say, for example, if Errol fights, let's say, for example, he fights Boots. Okay? Then that sanctioning body that has Stanionis as number one, they could actually strip him of that belt.
Yep.
Because he didn't fight the mandatory and he fought somebody else.
Yep.
So that's why, you know, when you got 4 belts, you could have 4 different mandatories. And all it takes is you not to fight any particular one for a sanctioning body to decide, well, look, you didn't fight this man, we taking his belt from you. And it happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, they but you know, these guys know that. That's why I say, man, it's kind of hard for me to see, because it's always like it seemed like Bud was always the victim, and you know, Spence always did all the wrong. But I'm like, man, these guys know all that stuff, you know, with the mandatories and all that. You know, they know that Bud's was like 18 months, so he had after the Sean Porter, he had 18 months. He could just do. He only had one of them, so they let him just live, just vicariously, just, you know, just spreading his wings, just flying around, knowing that Errol got all these people barking at. That's why I say I don't respect it, man. It's like, you know, what this man got leaning on him, and yeah, you playing chess, but like, man, if it's all about boxing, then that fight should have went down. So I hope, you know, I don't know. Like, let me ask you this. We know Errol said he wouldn't fight Thurman. But if you had an option to see him against Stanionis or him against Thurman, which one would you want?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. This is just, you know, I'm gonna say my selfish belief in it. Okay, I wouldn't fight Thurman, because when Thurman had a chance to fight him, he wouldn't. When he was champion, he did everything. He did not fight Spence. Spence was calling him out. He would not fight Spence. He lost his title to Pacquiao. I would not give him an opportunity to win a title back. Not from me, because you had a chance. I would fight Stanionis or I would fight Boots. But I would not fight him, because he had the opportunity and he didn't do it.
Well, I'm gonna throw another name. You got Virgil out there too.
I know, but see, this is the problem. With Stanionis stepping aside
he got
to let these guys fight, and the fight didn't come through. At some point, as a gentleman, I think you give this guy a chance, unless, of course, the money is just so big in fighting somebody else, and that you may get stripped of this belt anyway. So if you fight somebody else for the money and you get the money, then go ahead and move up to 54. Because it's a probability that one of your belts gonna be stripped anyway for not fighting your mandatory.
That make perfect sense to me. You know, I couldn't disagree. I was just throwing out some options, but I'm like, that's what I want. I mean, that's what I actually want, man. I don't, you know, I mean, I know what he said about Thurman, and I know the history and all that, but like Thurman is just like, you know, it's a certain class of boxers. I think I talked about it. That class with Thurman, Danny, Sean, Mikey, Kell Brook, like like those ones that's in that era. It's like some of them is at different weights. Like it's a couple of them, well, maybe a little bit before them, but all them guys, it's like at a point in time they all either looking at, because Bud is in that category, they all either looking at retirement or looking at for their big payday, and it's not about the skill. Right now, I think Stanionis is hungry. Like if he grab a hold of that strap, you know what I'm saying, with everything going on 47, when them belts pop out and they, you know, and they get dispersed, man, 47 is gonna go crazy. It's gonna be like a feeding frenzy, man.
Yeah, and see, I said that if Spence vacates this and move up, and those 3 belts become open, you're gonna see guys fighting to get them straps, because you got room for 3 champions.
Yep. And they know them wasn't passed down and handed down and dropped. Them went and taken off a champion. So them belts and the belts that Charlo got, I don't care what nobody say, them belts hold some weight. That's why you think everybody want a shot at Charlo now, because you know they know he that guy. You know what I'm saying? They know it. They know he that guy.
And see, they want him because if you fight him now, then that makes you the unified champ, because he owns them all. If Charlo moves up the way he wants to and vacate those belts, then it's gonna create a frenzy in that weight class, because you're gonna have 4 belts that are open, and it will be a minute before you can consolidate either one.
Yep.
Once you get 4 champions from each sanctioning body. So the time to fight a champion is when he owns everything, because then you inherit everything.